Hey everyone, Spaghetti here. Welcome back to my channel, coming at you with a brand new elemental guide for the War Within. I've been playing a lot in the preseason, testing out a lot of different builds, trying to figure out what best fits my playstyle. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I've been finding success on Elemental Shaman so far in the current expansion. Whether you're new to the spec or you're looking for some tips to further refine your play, this guide should help you hit the ground running with Elemental Shaman in the War Within. Until the rework. So Ellie received some balancing changes. After the expansion got released, we got nerfed by 6%. All of our damage got nerfed by 6%, but our mastery did get buffed by 30%. Originally, I thought that the mastery buff was going to make mastery better than crit, but after further testing, I realized crit is actually the best, and I stuck to the same stat prio that I was running with in the beta. So right now, I'm going for haste until 1.5 flame shock tick, and then after that, I'm going to put everything into crit. I'm a little bit above that haste threshold right now, just because I do like having that extra bit of haste. I feel like it does help to a certain extent, but my haste is at 9.1 K. I think that I can eventually lose out on some haste to gain some more crit back, but we want to be around that 8.8k, like around that range. So first things first, guys, I want to talk about what I have been picking up with my conquest so far in season 1. So with my conquest, guys, I actually picked up the chest piece from the vendor, and then I also picked up the gloves. I turned the gloves into a tier piece from the catalyst here in the middle of the main city. And then I also picked up the haste burst shoulders from the 1600 token piece that you do get. Thankfully, I've got a 1900 in solo shuffle. Actually, highest rated solo shuffle shaman at the moment. So wasn't expecting that. So yeah, that's pretty sick. This is where you go to upgrade your tier piece. This is where I went to upgrade my gloves. But at the moment, you only really do want to play that 2 piece. You don't want to go for the 4 set. It does look enticing, but you do end up losing out on a lot of stat and then also a lot of burst. So you're just kind of sticking with the 2 piece for now, and you're revolving the rest of your gearing around crit and haste. That's what I have been doing so far, and it feels really nice. Just gonna do a quick hover on all of my gear pieces just so that you guys can go ahead and copy it if you want. All my enchants and what I have running right now, you're able to see them. So I do recommend buying that tier 3 enchant. I think it's a huge game changer. Feels very nice for most classes, guys. I know it's unfortunately like 40k. I did make that sacrifice and bought it, and it feels very nice, guys. I do highly recommend. This shield is actually from Bloody Tokens. I bought the Bloody Token shield. So guys, this build very much revolves around getting lots of big earth shocks out, and I quickly want to talk about what are all the modifiers that buff earth shock at the moment, just so that you guys have it in mind and you guys are able to kind of play around it in your play. I've noticed a big difference in damage when I started playing around these modifiers and making sure that when I do pump earth shocks out, I do have some sort of these modifiers active. And while I don't have any of these modifiers active, I'm kind of just building up Maelstrom so that when one of these modifiers procs, I'm able to dump my Maelstrom with it. I've seen a lot more success kind of playing like that. So that's kind of what I've been going for. So the first modifier that I want to talk about, guys, is Master of the Elements. Casting Lava Burst increases the next damage of your nature, physical, or frost spell by 15%. So this is a very easy modifier to just get up. Unfortunately, this can be purged, but it's not the biggest deal. Not everyone goes after this, and it's honestly very easy to get up. That's the first modifier that you have when it comes to buffing your earth shock. After this, you have the talent called Lightning Conduit. Definitely recommend playing Lightning Conduit if you guys aren't playing it. It's just a flat out 8% increase to your nature spells, aka your earth shock. So after Lightning Conduit, you also have Magma Chamber. Flame shock damage increases the damage of your next earth shock by 1.5%, stacking up to 10 times. This will give you a 15% buff on your earth shock. So you're able to actually stack this with Master of the Elements. You're also able to stack this with Lightning Conduit, and it also stacks with Maelstrom Supremacy, and then also Swelling Maelstrom right here. So if you add all these modifiers together and you're using full min-max optimization of all these talents, you're increasing the damage of your Earthshock by 51% just in talents alone. Just in talents alone. Another modifier that I really want to talk about is actually your ancestors. Think of your ancestors as kind of guaranteed damage on a instant cast global. So for example, if you're going to I'm going to build up some Maelstrom here. All right, guys, so I have 2 ancestors out right now. I press Earthshock, and the ancestors kind of shoot out an extra lava burst. So it's kind of guaranteed damage. Per ancestor, you do an extra around 100k of damage. So think of it as an extra maybe 10% damage on your Earthshocks. Another bit of information that I actually want to go over is actually tracking your PvP trinket and when it procs. I've been starting to track this recently, and I've noticed a big increase in my damage. So right now, I have my PvP trinket proc, and that just basically increases the damage of my Earthshocks by a lot. I'm able to just spam out as much Maelstrom while I have this proc up, because I saved up some Maelstrom when it procced, and now while this proc is up, I'm just dumping as many Earthshocks as I can that are at 10 with my Magma Chamber and also my Master of the Elements proc. Now you can see that my weapon enchant proc, which is great. I'm able to just go into a completely new burst rotation, won't be as long. You either want to have either or up. You want to have either your weapon enchant or your trinket proc. And if you can have both up at the same time while you're doing this little bit of a combo, it's actually very nice. I actually want to speak on metagems for a moment. I'm actually looking at taking the Enduring Bloodstone, the one that gives me 5% damage reduction when I'm affected by crowd control. That just means basically when I'm in stuns, I'm going to be taking 5% reduced damage, which just makes me even tankier, which is great. I was messing with precog a little bit, but I actually don't think it's worth it. Us Ellies, we like to die in stuns, so making it even harder for us to die in stuns is probably the best move that we can make. So I quickly want to go over the talents and kind of what's changed in my philosophy behind this middle section of the Farseer tree. So in my last guide, I actually mentioned Heed My Call being better and also Latent Wisdom. Reason being I thought that beforehand was because I was really focused on my burst windows, but this build is more pad damage, overall endgame damage. So you're actually looking at playing routine communications, which is making your ancestors come in 8% of the time after you cast Lava Burst for 6 seconds. And then you're also looking at running a 20% chance of your ancestors to come back after they expire. And the reason why you kind of want to summon so many ancestors is because you play the final calling talent, and this makes it so that every time your ancestor gets despawned, it summons an Ellie Blast. Ellie Blast gives you stats, which equals more damage. Unfortunately, your burst windows are a little shorter with this build, so you kind of want to be a little careful when you do press your Primordial Wave and NS macro, but I do end up still macroing these both together, and I kind of just wait until after I get stunned or something along those lines before I send my one-shot macro. So I had a couple of you guys ask for some UI help in my last video, and I have no problem doing that. I'm going to try and go over a little bit of the main add-ons that I use to make my UI kind of look like this. The biggest add-on I think that makes it so that my bars are looking clean and you're able to just quickly move around the bars is actually really just DOMINOS. DOMINOS directly integrates to another add-on called MASQUE, which is kind of a skin add-on. You're able to put on skins on your DOMINOS, which will make it look like how I have it with a black outline. But the way I set up my UI is actually with DOMINOS and also MASQUE. Right here, installed skins. I have DOMINOS, skin setting. I use the Dream skin for all of my different add-ons that it integrates with. But yep, you can change the different skin of your action bars. Let's say I wanted to make it back to the DOMINOS one, it'd look like this, but I like Dream. Dream's my favorite. That's the one I use. When it comes to my macros, guys, I realized that I didn't really go over it that much in my last video. I kind of just sent you guys to a paste bin, but I will go over the macros that I use for Ellie so far in the War Within and what I've just been using and trying to use going into the new season. So I want to start off with my one-shot macro, aka my Primordial Wave macro. I basically macro Primordial Wave and Ancestral Swiftness together. This guarantees me having 2 ancestors out whenever I send out my Primordial Wave, which is amazing. It also makes it so that I'm guaranteed to be able to cast Lava Burst with Primordial Wave. Sometimes you don't have a Lava Surge cast, but they're thankfully changing this in the next patch. But for right now, we're actually just macroing these in together. We might actually look at changing this macro moving forward in the next patch, but for right now I'm just keeping it as it is. A nice addition to this macro that I actually have recently done is I added Totemic Projection at the end of it. A lot of the time, if you don't move your Sky Fury totem right away, it's actually just gonna get killed. So what I've started to do is position myself in a way so that, let's say this is the caster that I'm hitting, I'm able to press Primordial Wave on them and then quickly position my Sky Fury behind the pillar and still kind of play in its range, keep the buff of Sky Fury, still do damage with my Sky Fury totem, keep the damage buff, and have it not be instantly killed by anything that just does 5 damage. The next macro that I actually want to talk about is the Liquid Magma at Cursor macro. This is something that makes Liquid Magma Totem a lot nicer to press. I don't actually have to think about where I need to press it. I just have to move my cursor to where there are 3 targets, and then I just press my keybind and it drops it down. It is very nice. I like having my other totems so that I see the circle. I'm able to root people in like the max range. But I've noticed that with this Liquid Magma Totem, it's a lot easier to just press down this button with the at cursor macro. Next macro that I use is actually my Mouse over Earthshield macro. I have Mouse over Earthshield macro, so whenever I am in arena, I don't necessarily have to target my teammates to give them Earthshield. I just have to move my mouse over them, and wada bing, wada boom, they have Earthshield. I have a wall macro that just basically has a stop casting sequence before it. This makes it so that if I'm ever casting Healing Surge or whatever, it just cancels it and I'm able to just wall right away. I have a Focus Purge macro. I have stop casting on my ground totem for the same reason. If I'm ever casting anything, I can just press ground right away. I play with Windshear Arena 1, 2, 3, Hex Arena 1, 2, 3, and then also Earthquake Pulverize 1, 2, 3. I play with 2 dynamic macros, one to heal my DPS and then also one to heal my healer. I also have a Mouse over Lust macro. This allows me to choose between the DPS and also the healer depending on the flow of the game. Sometimes I press Heroism on my healer just so that I don't have to press any more of my defensive CDs, because at the moment I don't play Burrow, I play Shamanism and then also Totem of Wrath. This might be changing in the future. We might look into playing Burrow moving forward, but at the moment, min-maxing with Totem of Wrath really does feel very nice. Another macro that I quickly want to touch on is actually my Cancel Aura Burrow macro. Without this macro, you actually have to wait until the next global to cancel Burrow. But with this macro, you actually can cancel it on the first tick. It actually bugs out your character. So let's see if it still does. Yep, I'm able to cast my buttons right now, but as you can see, I'm kind of invisible. And I did press Burrow there. We hit a Burrow there for 400k. But you only really want to do that Cancel or a Burrow macro if you want to burrow some sort of incoming CC, or if you want to just completely execute someone when they're about to die and you're completely out of damage and you know they're going to die. You press it. That's the only time you'll really go for that. But at the moment, Earthshock really hits harder than Burrow, so that's pretty much your execute. Alrighty guys, I want to touch on PvP talents. I've kind of been running the same build out that I've been running with in the beta. I've kind of been running just Grounding Totem, Shamanism, and Totem of Wrath almost every round. Just making sure to keep that momentum with the Totem of Wrath, making sure I never really fall behind. I do see playing against the best players, maybe Burrow being better than Totem of Wrath, just because Totem of Wrath will likely get killed in these high level games. But if you do follow that same philosophy that I just talked about, where you're kind of positioning in a way you are able to quickly move over the Totem of Wrath once you summon it, making it really hard for it to die. That'll up the value of Totem of Wrath, but it's not going to, I want to say, outperform Burrow at the highest levels. So at the moment, I want to say Shamanism, Burrow, and Ground are the 3 PvP talents that you want to pick up. But if you are feeling a little bit spicy, you can pick up Totem of Wrath. If you are not afraid of dying, pick up Totem of Wrath, and you're able to quickly burst someone down with that totem. So I quickly want to talk about defensive cooldown rotation and what cooldowns you should be using when, and how you should be using your CDs. So your 2 defensives right now are Stone Bulwark Totem and then also Ancestral Shift. Stone Bulwark Totem is basically, think of it as a monk cocoon that keeps applying a little mini power word shield for up to 30 seconds after it's been cast. You kind of have to stay within the range of the Stone Bulwark Totem or else it won't give you that shield, but it does have a pretty large range. When it comes to when to use your Stone Bulwark Totem, you rather use this at lower HP and at low damp whenever your healer is in CC. It's really bad to have to press this whenever your healer is out of CC. You might have to press this in an emergency situation when you're about to die, potentially, but it's very bad to press this when your healer is not in CC. Same goes with wall, except with wall, you kind of have to press this when you're higher HP so that you have more of a pool before you die defensively. You kind of preemptively want to press this defensive CD to kind of mitigate their CDs. Let's say at the beginning of the game, everyone wants to press their damage CDs right away. So that's probably going to be a good time to press Astral Shift, get it out of the way, and then your last final wall of defense will be your Stone Bulwark Totem. But this is going to be a kind of emergency case situation. You're about to die, you have to press this, or maybe your healer, no more trinkets, no way of getting out of CC. That's kind of when you press Stone Bulwark Totem. But at the same time, guys, definitely don't press this when it's super damp because it is an absorb and it is affected by dampening. You kind of want to press this a little bit before dampening kicks in to get really large value from it. So I quickly want to go over my burst rotation and what my goal is every time I load into the arena, kind of just to give you guys a little bit of where my mind is whenever I'm going into the arena. First of all, I want to summon my Fire Elemental to increase my fire damage by 10%, and also my Flame Shock ticks tick faster. So then I want to cast Liquid Magma Totem, get at least 3 people in there, get my regular Flame Shock in there, maybe cast a Lava Burst. I'm really just waiting for procs, and then I press Primordial Wave. Whenever you pop off your damage, you're likely to get a proc. Let's see how long it takes before I get a proc. While I'm bursting, I'm just sending in as many 10-stack Earth Shocks as I can with Master of the Elements. Use my Liquid Magma Totem again. Use some instant cast Ice Furies whenever you have them, guys. And then, unfortunately, no procs this showcase. There we go. We got a proc there at the end. But it's nice to kind of wait until your procs come through. But if, let's say, you don't have a proc, it's arguably better to just send your damage. Even if you don't have it, you can wait a little bit to see if you get a proc. Right there, I got this PvP trinket to proc back to back. But if you don't have a proc, it's probably better to just send it. It just depends on what your teammates are doing. If, let's say, your teammates are sending the healer and they're sending all their CDs, yeah, it's probably better to send the go, even if you don't have a trinket proc. But if you have some sort of coordination with your DPS, you can maybe tell them to wait a second before it procs. You're kind of able to track it in your head. It procs about once every 30 seconds to once every 1 minute. So try and track it in your head with your primordial waves. One primordial wave should have the trinket procced, and then the other should have probably the weapon procced. It all depends on the game, really. Alrighty, guys, that pretty much wraps up the updated guide for Elemental Shaman in the War Within. I'll be streaming high-end Elemental Shaman gameplay this season, so if you want to see how I'm handling the expansion and catch some live action, be sure to check me out on my Twitch channel at @spaghetti_. If you've enjoyed the guide, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. My goal is to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the month, so your support means a lot, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.